She blocked me for 5 days to hide her lies, so I waited, collected every proof, and exposed everything at the airport while the whole crowd watched her world collapse. My girlfriend blocked me for 5 days while she was on a girls' trip. When she got back, she expected me to be waiting at the airport with flowers. Instead, she met a process server holding an eviction notice. She once told me, "You don't need to know what happens on a girls' trip. That's why I'm blocking you until I'm home." So I didn't reply. But when she landed and looked around for me, she found out exactly who was waiting instead. I'm a private investigator. It's a profession that changes you on a cellular level. You stop taking people at their word, you start watching what they do. You learn to read lies not from words, but from pauses, hesitations, and what they try to hide behind a smile. Rachel, my girlfriend of 3 years, always said my job made me too suspicious. The truth, it hadn't made me suspicious enough. Our relationship was supposed to be my refuge from the endless deceit I saw every day, a space where I didn't need to look for hidden motives or half-truths. We lived together in a house I bought with years of dangerous, sleepless work. I thought what we had was genuine. I trusted her completely, and in my profession, trust is the rarest, most valuable currency there is. But it all started to unravel, as these things often do, with something that seemed harmless: a 5-day girls' trip to Las Vegas. There were 3 other women going: Veronica, Sophie, and Natalie. Veronica was the loud one, twice divorced, always chasing attention. Sophie followed her lead like a shadow. Natalie was quiet but observant, the kind who smiled but measured every move. I never liked any of them. They were the type who treated Rachel like some kind of accessory, reminding her how fun she used to be before she met a boring, responsible guy like me. When she was packing, I asked for her flight number and hotel details, just in case something happened. She turned, looked me dead in the eye, and said coldly, "You don't need to know that." I blinked. "What do you mean? I just want to know where you'll be." Her tone sharpened. "It's a girls' trip, Derek. The point is to get away from everything, including you. You don't need to know what happens on a girls' trip. That's why you'll be blocked until I get back." Blocked. Not just some privacy. She was literally cutting me off from her life for 5 full days. I didn't argue, I didn't yell, I didn't beg. In my line of work, when someone builds a wall, you don't smash through it. You find another way around. So I smiled and said, "Okay, have a great time." That threw her off. She'd been expecting a fight. She wanted one, even. When I didn't give her that satisfaction, she didn't know how to react. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. She was cheerful, dressed up, practically glowing with excitement. As she leaned in to kiss me goodbye, she said, "Don't miss me too much. I'll text you when I land. I'll unblock you then." "I wouldn't count on it," I said. She laughed, thinking I was joking. I watched her disappear through security, dragging her suitcase behind her. Then I drove straight to my office. The investigation had already begun. She thought she'd blocked me out of her trip. She had no idea I was about to illuminate every inch of it. She was right about one thing. Someone would be waiting for her at the airport when she returned. She just didn't realize it wouldn't be me. Update 1.0, the investigation: Rachel left for her trip a week ago. For her, it's been parties, cocktails, and secrets. For me, it's been quiet, precise work, the kind I'm best at. The first step was simple. I looked up the license plate of the SUV that had picked them up the morning they left. Veronica had posted a photo of the 4 of them posing with their luggage in front of her house. And in the corner of that photo was a luxury SUV. The plate came back registered to a man named Richard Hale, a senior partner at a major investment firm. Married, 2 kids, clean reputation. That was the first red flag. Rachel told me they were flying on a budget airline. A quick check of flight manifests told another story. There were no commercial flights booked under any of their names that day. However, a private jet owned by Richard Hale's firm had filed a flight plan from our city to Las Vegas. The passenger list wasn't public, but I didn't need it. Everything was starting to make sense. Her blocking me wasn't a defense mechanism, it was a confession. She thought she could hide behind silence. Instead, she'd given me full freedom to dig without having to pretend to be the loving, clueless boyfriend. Her friends were less careful. Sophie, the follower, had an open social media profile. She was documenting everything: selfies, drinks, club lights. In one picture, the reflection in her sunglasses clearly showed a man sitting across from them in a cabana. In a nightclub video, Veronica could be seen leaning into a man who definitely wasn't her ex. And Natalie's biggest mistake: a group photo at a fancy dinner with an abstract painting behind them. A quick reverse image search identified the artwork. It hung in the private dining room of a Bellagio high-roller suite. That suite isn't open to the public. It's reserved for the casino's VIP clients. I made a few calls to contacts in Vegas. One of them, a casino security officer who owed me a favor, confirmed it. The suite was registered under Richard Hale's name. He was hosting several clients for the week, and yes, 4 women were staying with them. Rachel was one of them. It wasn't a girls' trip. It was a bought-and paid-for getaway. She wasn't sipping margaritas with her friends. She was part of a luxury weekend funded by a married man, and one of the guests happened to be her ex-fiancé, Andrew. I found that out after enhancing audio from one of Sophie's videos. Rachel was laughing with a man whose voice triggered something in my memory. I cleaned the audio and ran it through a voice analysis tool. The software matched it perfectly with a recording I had of Andrew. The man she claimed she hated. The man who broke her heart. The man she swore she never wanted to see again. Every word she'd told me about that relationship had been a lie. This wasn't a spontaneous betrayal. It was organized deceit, deliberate and layered. I didn't need to confront her. I needed to end her story. Step 1, Richard Hale. His wife, Alina, was a respected pediatrician and mother of 2. She seemed completely unaware of her husband's extracurricular activities. I didn't contact her. That wasn't my place. But I compiled a digital file. The private jet's flight itinerary, the hotel and suite registration photos from social media linking her husband to Veronica and Rachel. Then I sent it anonymously to a reputable divorce attorney in their city. The message was short. You might want to show this to your client, Alina Hale. Her husband's business trip seemed to involve more than business. Next, Andrew. He worked in real estate, and according to public records was already tangled in multiple financial disputes. I have friends in journalism, so I passed along a neatly organized report detailing a real estate developer funding lavish vacations with money that wasn't his. Names, connections, accounts. Enough breadcrumbs to make someone start digging. Finally, I prepared for Rachel's return. She texted me from one of her friend's phones a few days before landing. Having the best time, can't wait to see you. Pick me up Sunday at 3. I replied with a simple, okay. She thought she'd come home to a hug and a clean conscience. She had no idea that I had already moved out her belongings, changed the locks, and set something else in motion. I found someone who had more reason than I did to be at that airport. Andrew's current girlfriend, Serena, a schoolteacher. Kind eyes, no idea her boyfriend had been in Vegas. He told her he was on a wellness retreat in Arizona with no phone service. When I called her, she was confused at first. Then she heard everything, the recordings, the photos, the flight logs. There was silence, then tears, then a cold, deliberate anger. I told her when Rachel's flight landed. She expects me to pick her up, I said. But I think it should be you. Serena didn't hesitate. The stage was set. The players were in position. Rachel's flight landed in less than 24 hours. She thought she was coming home to love. She was about to walk straight into a reckoning. The airport confrontation wasn't a scene. It was an explosion, and I watched every second of it live. I wasn't there in person. I was at home in front of my laptop, watching a live feed from a hidden camera held by a contractor I'd hired, posing as a limo driver. Rachel's flight arrived on time. I watched her walk through the gate with her friends, tanned, laughing, surrounded by designer shopping bags. She was on her phone, smiling, probably texting me. Just landed, baby. Come pick me up. Then, through the crowd, Serena appeared. Calm, focused, carrying a folder in her hand, the same evidence I'd sent her. Rachel spotted her before she could react. The smile fell right off her face. And that was the exact moment captured live when truth replaced denial. I didn't need to see what was said next. I already knew. She stood in the middle of the terminal, composed, steady, holding a large, well-made poster board. Across it was a crisp, high-resolution photo I'd obtained from my contact at the casino, Rachel and Andrew at a blackjack table in the high-roller lounge, his arm draped comfortably around her shoulders. Rachel saw Serena before anyone else. Her smile froze mid-sentence, the color draining from her face. She stopped dead in her tracks. Her friends, still chatting, bumped into her and turned to see what had caught her attention. Their laughter died instantly when they noticed Serena and then the photo she was holding. Serena didn't shout. She didn't even raise her voice. She simply stood there, letting the image speak louder than any words ever could. Airports are usually filled with noise, footsteps, chatter, rolling suitcases, but suddenly a small sphere of silence formed around them. People slowed, stopped, and stared. A few even pulled out their phones to record what was unfolding. Rachel tried to recover. She started walking, pretending not to recognize Serena, But Serena had come prepared. She took one calm step forward and spoke loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Andrew sends his regards," she said evenly. "He couldn't make it today. He's a little busy explaining this photo to me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Rachel's friends exchanged horrified looks, realizing that whatever web they'd spun had just collapsed in public. They weren't innocent bystanders. They were standing inside the blast radius. That's when a man in a dark suit approached. The process server I'd hired. He walked right up to her, professional and composed. "Rachel Miller?" he asked clearly. She nodded weakly, eyes wide and unblinking. "You've been served," he said, handing her a thick envelope before turning and walking away without another word. Inside that envelope was a formal eviction notice, 30 days to collect her belongings and vacate my property. Also enclosed, a restraining order legally barring her from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of my home or office. The combination of public humiliation and legal reality hit her all at once. Rachel's knees buckled. Her hands flew to her face, and she dropped her suitcase. She started sobbing, hard, loud, messy sobs that echoed through the arrivals hall. Her so-called friends didn't stay. They gathered their luggage and scattered in different directions like rats abandoning a sinking ship. None of them wanted to be connected to the fallout they'd helped create. The security contractor's live feed captured everything. There she was, the same woman who'd smugly blocked me out of her life only days earlier, now sitting on the cold airport floor, surrounded by designer bags and silence. Completely alone, what followed was fast, brutal, and far-reaching. Eleanor Hale, Richard's wife, wasted no time once that anonymous file reached her attorney. Within 24 hours, she filed for divorce. Per her prenuptial agreement, infidelity allowed her to move half their liquid assets into a trust for their children, which she did immediately. Richard's perfect life imploded overnight. His firm, built on a family values image, suspended him pending an ethics review. The tabloids had a field day. Veronica, the ringleader of that so-called girls' trip, was publicly named in the divorce filings. The same social circles she once flaunted now treated her like a contagion. Andrew, the ex-fiancé, fared no better. The journalist friend I'd tipped off ran the story about his financial misconduct and misuse of client funds. His business partners turned on him instantly, filing lawsuits that tore apart what little reputation he had left. Serena, who'd once been his girlfriend, left him for good. With my help, she began preparing her own legal claim for emotional and financial damages. And Rachel, her life burned to ash almost overnight. She lost her relationship, her friends, her home, and her carefully built illusion of control. Her parents had to drive 3 hours to pick her up from the airport that day. I can only imagine the conversation that followed. She moved back into their spare bedroom, 30 years old, jobless, heartbroken, and stripped of the life she thought she'd mastered. She tried reaching out, of course, disposable phones, new email accounts, social media messages under fake names. I never answered. My attorney handled everything, issuing a cease and desist notice, reminding her of the restraining orders terms. Her friends also tried contacting me, each claiming they didn't know what was really going on. I ignored them too. They were just background noise now. In the week after her return, I erased her from my existence piece by piece. A moving service packed her belongings and delivered them to her parents' address. I changed my number, cleaned out every trace of her from my digital world. To her and that circle she lived in, I no longer exist. She thought she was playing a clever game, that she could have both, the security I offered and the thrill of deceit behind my back. She never realized that in my world there are no games, only evidence, only truth and consequences. She gave me 5 days of silence. I gave her a lifetime of it. 6 months later, final closure. Half a year has passed since that day at the airport. The chaos has settled, not just into quiet, but into something clean. I'm writing this final update not out of pride, but to close the book on this chapter. After the initial rush of satisfaction faded, what remained was a hollow stillness. I'd won, but revenge is an empty meal once it's finished. I realized I'd spent so long studying deceit that I'd forgotten how to look for honesty or hope. Then there was Serena. After the confrontation, we stayed in contact, cautiously at first, two people bound by the same betrayal. We met for coffee, then dinner. We never talked about them, only about life, family, work, and what came next. She was funny, sharp, and grounded, stronger than she even knew. Somewhere along the way, something real began to grow between us. We're together now, slowly, carefully, with no illusions. It's the most genuine connection I've ever had, built entirely on transparency. Meanwhile, the others have all reached their well-earned endings. Richard Hale's divorce finalized months ago. It was ugly, public, and devastating. Elena, armed with everything I'd sent, claimed what was hers. He lost his home, most of his fortune, and his reputation. His career is over. Veronica's name became social poison. The wealthy men she once orbited now treat her like a walking liability. Andrew's downward spiral hasn't stopped. The investigations sparked by that news article have turned into lawsuits and now potential criminal charges. His company's gone, his savings too, and Rachel, her story is quieter, and in some ways sadder. After months in her parents' house, she found a new job and moved into a small one-bedroom apartment. She's trying to rebuild, but she's doing it alone. Her so-called friends have long vanished, her social life gone. 2 months ago, my lawyer forwarded a handwritten letter from her, a long one. It wasn't an excuse, it wasn't a plea. It was an admission. She called that day at the airport the worst moment of her life, but also the first time she saw herself clearly. She wrote about realizing that she'd valued the attention of others more than the love of someone who truly cared. She said she's in therapy now, trying to become someone she can respect. She ended the letter by saying she didn't expect forgiveness, only that she wanted me to know she was sorry, deeply sorry. I read it. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger or triumph, just peace. Her words felt sincere. But some things, once broken, never fit back together. What I did wasn't just revenge. It was truth brought into daylight, forcing people who thrived on illusion to face what they really were. The airport wasn't just a confrontation. It was a stage, and on that stage, every mask was stripped away. What was left wasn't beautiful, but it was real. I don't think about them anymore. My life feels whole again. I have someone I trust, a career I'm proud of, and a calm I hadn't felt in years. I still see the world in layers, lies, motives, truths, but now I also notice the light between them. Rachel thought she could block me out for 5 days. She didn't know she was giving me the time I needed to build a wall strong enough to keep her kind of chaos out forever. And behind that wall, for the first time in a very long while, everything is still. Everything is safe. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.